Welcome to these Lunchinars. For those that have been to some of the others, hello again. To those that are joining for the first time, hello. My name's Dan. I'll be your host for today's, which is all about using social media to get your message out there. So, quick look at Lunchinars. What are they? They're free bite-sized learning, quite literally, over lunchtime, to help boost your skills and knowledge. In the sessions I'm doing, it's all about digital marketing, and some of the other sessions that are coming up on some different topics, which I'm sure Roger will share out. They are completely free. There's no charge fees whatsoever. Typically, they're about 30, 40 minutes of a bit of information sharing and learning, and then we've got a question and answer session at the end. Any questions welcome. There's no such thing as a stupid question, just a stupid answer. After all the sessions, we've got a free takeaway, and they're available to rewatch at any time on the SAVS website. Who are Ionic? It's me, multi-award winning. I class myself as a micro agency, so I work with a small team that specialise in particular areas, and we come together and collaborate on projects. I've been doing this for, it's actually getting close to 20 years now, which makes me feel really old. I'm Southend based. I'm a Hockley boy, but I love working with local businesses. I have absolutely no desire to travel to London. I'd much rather work with local businesses, local organisations, because I think there's a big skills gap that I can help fill. I've put their launched. It started off as 427 on the first session we did. The last session we did 428, and I'm just on the brink of 429. But I just wanted to add that in there since I started. I try and avoid any techno babble, but if I do throw in any acronyms or any words you're not sure on, don't be afraid to raise your hand. I'm more than happy to explain them. And as it says there, I don't believe in the whole pulling the wool over people's eyes. Right, let's have a look. So quick recap on some of the sessions we've previously done. Week 1, digital marketing with the basics. We looked at some of the buzzwords, keywords around digital marketing and some of the fundamentals. In week 2, we looked at websites about getting your organisation online. And all of these can be looked at on the SAVS website. If you go to the Lunchinars page, scroll all the way to the bottom, there's a Lunchinar collection section. It's a bit of a mouthful. Have a cup of tea, sit back and learn. Right, what is social media? By definition, they are online platforms that enable users to create and share content. You can create posts, you can share information. It's about engaging and collaborating with people in a social environment. Why is it important for not just your organization? It's important for everyone and every business, I think, nowadays, because we've lost a lot of the human interaction. The online social interaction replaces that to a degree. So some of the reasons that you'd want to be on there: purely brand awareness is a good enough reason for most people. Make sure your name is on there, make sure people know who you are, and sharing your message out there. Getting engagement from people, whether that be building relationships, addressing people's concerns, just responding to inquiries. It's just another way that people can get in touch with you and interact with you. And a lot of people find it easier because you're not having to find a phone number, you're not having to find an email address and not sure on response times. If you use something like Facebook Messenger, you can see when a message is being looked at, when a message is being read, and it's more of an instant connection with people. Lead generation, it's a great way to sort of generate leads, to get people to take action. The acronym there's CTA, which is call to action. That could be something as simple as click here to donate now. But it could be click here to register. Anything that would take someone to do an action would be classed as lead generation. And sometimes it's just as basic as getting more and more people onto your website. There's a huge world out there in the world of social media. So there's a great opportunity to get people to your website. Now we look at some of the social media platforms, and there's more than you'd think. There's some really obvious ones and some really basic ones, but there's some really detailed ones and specific ones that certain businesses and organizations would tap into, but for a lot of people you wouldn't. But I've taken a look at some of the basic ones. Facebook, it's everyone's favorite. It's the 3rd most visited website in the world. In one of the statistics later on, people spend on average of 2 to 3 hours a day on social media, and Facebook is one of the top ones. It's a great platform. Over the years, Mark Zuckerberg and his team have created some really cool tools, some not so great tools, but it has over 2.8 billion monthly active users, which is a phenomenal number. It's a very diverse platform, from the very young, within reason, to the very old. It covers the broad spectrum of your demographic. Some of the features they've got for nonprofits, you can add a donate button into posts, and they have some charity functionality. Really annoyingly, a few years ago, they actually offered free money to people to be able to advertise on Facebook, but they've taken that away. There's a lot of sort of chatter online about it being reintroduced at some point. And if it does, I'll happily share that with Roger, and I'm sure he'll share that out with everyone else. But that'd be a really nice feature if they brought that back. Go back 20 years, when it first started, it was FaceMesh. Then it became the Facebook, and I don't know if anyone's seen the film, but it's by all accounts very accurate to what actually happened, before they finally settled on the name Facebook in 2005, and that's what it's been since. Instagram, everyone's favorite photo platform. It's purely visual. You can share videos, pictures, and more recently stories, which are sort of full screen portrait videos, also known as Reels. It has over 1.5 billion active users each month, but a bit of a different demographic. Most of the users fall below 35. That doesn't mean to say there's not a whole load of other users, but actually, if you looked at a very generalist viewpoint, under the age of 35, it's the kind of original influencer marketing platform. So there's quite a lot of influencers out there that you can interact with, and they can help promote brands, products, etc. And originally founded in 2010, go back 10-ish years, it was bought out by Facebook, and they merged the two together in some respects, but they also sit as separate platforms in others. But a couple of years ago, Instagram actually released something called Threads. It's kind of their text-based alternative to Twitter, which is now called X. So it's there as an option. It's still relatively underused, but I think it's got potential to grow, especially as Twitter starts to encounter some problems. Talking of which, Twitter, which is now known as X, recently taken over by Elon Musk, and he's seen a drop in traffic of 14%, which actually, when you look at 400 million monthly active users, that's a pretty significant drop. Typically used for things like real-time news updates. It could be used for networking, engaging with public figures. People use it it's actually a really good platform for customer service, and sharing updates. If you look at some of the train providers, Greater Anglia Trains, they have an active Twitter feed, sorry, an active X feed, and they constantly share updates because it lets people know very quickly what's happening, and you can set up alerts on your phone to get those notifications as they happen. And actually, if you looked at yesterday, when Meta had huge problems across Facebook and Instagram, Twitter became the most popular website of people looking for information about why Facebook had gone down. LinkedIn, also known as the Facebook for business people. If you looked at the two platforms side by side, very, very similar functionality. The main difference with LinkedIn is that you can build yourself an online presence, build yourself like an online CV, and it's a great way to interact with professional people on a different level to Facebook. Facebook tends to be friends and family. LinkedIn tends to be business-related people. It's really good for getting corporate engagement from individuals and from companies. Still a phenomenal amount of users, 740 million. And as I said there, it's mainly used for professional networking. They've got a whole job search functionality. So if within your organizations you're looking for potential new employees, actually put an advert on LinkedIn, because it will automatically share that job with a whole load of people in the local area that have the skills that you're looking for. And it's a really good platform for that, and offers some really good B2B marketing opportunities. When I say B2B marketing opportunities, that's business to business. So if you're looking for particular people, so maybe anyone that's interested or has a job role in the corporate social responsibilities, you could create a bit of an ad campaign that's focused on those people, because these platforms hold a lot of information about who people are, what their job roles are, the organizations, and things like that. Snapchat. Over the last few years, I've completely lost touch with Snapchat. I don't see it as a great tool for most businesses. However, there is a place for it. It still has over 500 million active users. It's predominantly about sharing short messages, and video clips of people, and they have like an automatic disappearing thing. So after 30 seconds of showing something, it disappears and it's gone forever. But you can use it as an advertising platform. But its typical demographic is anyone under the age of 21. It's got some great augmented filters. So when you open the camera, you can have little bunny ears come up and a cowboy hat, and it's really cool with that sort of thing. But I wouldn't class it as a more something that most of you guys would really want to interact with. TikTok is the newest, freshest kid on the block. It's already hit over 1 billion monthly users. It uses short video clips. They range from just a couple of seconds long all the way up to a couple of minutes long. A lot of brands are really engaging with TikTok as the future platform. It really hit it off over COVID lockdown times because, hand on heart, you could spend 3 hours a day scrolling through videos and it would only feel like it'd been 5 minutes. I am guilty of that. But it's quite interesting because there's a lot of things on there. A bit like Instagram with influencers, TikTok has become the new influencer platform. And there's a lot of, I'll call them celebrities, but they're not celebrities you would have heard like most of the people in the Celebrity Big Brother house. But they sit within their own little network on TikTok, but they have access to hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people. They've got a whole load of advertising opportunities within TikTok. They also have the ability to add a donate button onto TikTok posts. And they've had a really recent team up with Comic Relief that's kind of started over the last 2 weeks and is going to be carrying on over the next few weeks. And I think that's going to set the tone for quite a lot of things to come out of TikTok in terms of integrating with organizations and charities. I think this is a really good testbed for them because Comic Relief have seen that TikTok is the new platform that most people are using. And I think as a result, TikTok are going to start introducing a lot more third sector functionality into its platform to help people like you. YouTube, it's not, for most people, it's not classed as a social media platform, but actually it is because it's all about interacting with people. 2.3 billion logged in monthly users, huge amount. They've enhanced their streaming game. You can now stream live football matches, live tennis matches. They've got paid platforms. They've got free platforms. It's the second most visited website globally, which is probably why Google bought it a few years ago. And it is by far the largest video sharing platform out there. And it's completely free for anyone to create and upload a video into it. And you can also use some of its tools to actually create video content. If you haven't got necessarily the skill set, it has a whole creator platform that you can use a webcam built into your computer or laptop to create your own videos. And then some other notable platforms. Pinterest, bit of an older platform now, but it's about they class themselves as a visual discovery engine. So if you're looking for some inspiration about home decor, have a look at Pinterest, because if you start typing in certain keywords, you can create a whole new living room for you. Reddit, very Americanized. It's a social sort of news aggregation discussion platform. Tumblr's all about microblogging. Clubhouse, if we roll back sort of 5 years, just pre-COVID times, Clubhouse had just started, and during lockdowns, Clubhouse was a really good platform for audio-based social networking. It was a bit of a new crazy idea, purely audio. There's no video, but it's died down over the last couple of years. And Twitch is great if you're looking for a really young audience to interact with, and it's all about video game chat and discussion. So yeah, I appreciate that's me quickly blasting through some of the top social media platforms. As I say, feel free to ask any questions along the way. A top tip, and I say this to anyone I work with, whatever part of the journey you're on, if you're thinking of starting, if you've just started, or you've been up and running for 10 years, register all the social media platforms you can and secure your brand name, because there's nothing worse than thinking to yourself, well, I'm not interested in Instagram now, but then 3 years down the line, you want to use it and someone's taking the name that would be ideal for you. Make sure you register it as soon as possible. Even if you sit on it and do nothing with it, just make sure you register it, because once it's been allocated to someone else, you can't get it back. Right, some interesting facts about social media. 4.8 billion people worldwide are using it. That's roughly 92% of all internet users. As I mentioned earlier, 2 to 3 hours per day on social media. Most of that is done in the evenings, but depending on which platform, that could be other times. In 2003, over $1.2 trillion was spent on social media advertising. That comes very close to the amount of money spent on TV advertising. YouTube sees 2,500 new videos uploaded every minute, and it's about 500 hours. And I actually, even with a technical mind, struggle to understand how they've built the technology to be able to support 500 hours of video being generated every minute. So far we've been running for 18 minutes. I can't even do the maths on that. That's several thousand hours worth of video that's been uploaded to YouTube. Who has the time to watch all this stuff? And another crazy fact, 95 million photos are uploaded to Instagram every day. 95 million. That's just incomprehensible. Yeah, you can tell that blew my mind the other night when I was looking these stats up. So when we're talking about posting onto social media, the most important thing you've got to do is identify who your demographic is. Who are you trying to target? And you can typically categorize them into maybe 2 or 3 different profiles of people that you might want to have touch points along the journey. You might want to look at their age. You might want to look at where they are geographically, things like their gender, their ethnicity and their background, what interests and hobbies they may have, and what occupation they may have. Now, different platforms have different levels of information they store. For example, not many people put their occupation on Facebook, but on LinkedIn they do. So actually, the more detailed profile you can build of a person, you can use those different bits over different social media platforms. These are also really good if you look at doing paid advertising on social media, because when you start to build your advertising campaigns, you would build a demographic of the type of people you'd want to target. Because let's face it, you don't want to spend loads of money targeting loads and loads of people, even within the South End area. Actually, if you start to reduce that down by selecting people in a certain age range, particular locations, particular occupations, instead of spending your money targeting what could be several million people, actually you're only targeting what could be 10,000 people, but they're the 10,000 people that are the kind of like A1 type of person you want to get in front of. When should you post on some of these social media platforms? Now, I actually say this in one of the other slides, but I'll say it now. There is no exact science to this. Every person, every brand, it works differently. It's all about test and measure. So the guidance is for Facebook, aim for in the mornings, aim for early afternoon. If you think of the psychology behind it, it's most people that they've got into work for the day. Within the first half hour, they've deleted all the emails they don't want to deal with. Then they're bored, so they sit there with a cup of tea, a cup of coffee, flicking through social media before they actually kick into work. Likewise, just after lunchtime, struggling to get back into the routine of a working day, quickly flick through some of those social media channels. Thursdays and Fridays for Facebook tend to be the most popular. And as always, avoid posting anything late night and early morning. I had a client that I worked with. They produce they do vehicle modifications, really cool content. They had some great videos, great pictures of what they do, but they're really busy during the day and they were posting everything at midnight. So if you looked at their social media channel at midnight, they'd have 4 or 5 posts go out. And because all these social media platforms work as a timeline, by the time that most people have got up the next day, that information has been lost down the timeline and is not important to people anymore. You've got to pick right times to post to people. In a couple of the slides coming up, we talk about how you can do that. So Instagram, similarly, 7 till 9, 5 till 7, tends to be before people go to work, after people come back. Wednesdays, hump day, tends to get more engagement rate. But also experiment with other times. Twitter, a bit like Instagram, early morning, but a bit like Facebook in terms of early afternoon. Wednesdays and Fridays tend to have higher engagement rates. Don't bother with early morning, late nights. I think that covers across most of these platforms. LinkedIn for business people would typically people on their way into work and then lunchtime, because that's when they sit down to have a flick through. Tuesday, Wednesdays and Thursdays, but also Mondays and Fridays. So, test and measure. So as I say, there is no exact science to when you post these things. These are just guidelines and recommendations, but it's important to understand who your audience is and when the best engagement rate is. Test a few times, but please don't do it at anything past midnight, because people have just lost interest. And the way around this, because you think to yourself, oh, I've had a really busy day. When am I going to find the time to do all this? don't panic. There's some great tools out there to help you manage your social media channels. And the best bit is they're free. So you can use things like scheduling tools to build a complete calendar of social media posts. And you can spend a couple of hours creating those social media posts within a scheduling tool. And you can customize that per channel. And then you can roll that out. So some of the clients I work with, we might spend half a day scheduling all the posts that are going to go out for the following month. And at that point, you're completely hands off. You can just let the whole thing go in the background. Right, now we're going to talk about the difference between organic and paid social media. They both cover the basics of social media, but it's about how you interact with people. Organic posts are only seen by the people that are already following you. So if your Facebook page has 120 likes, that's really good. They tend to be friends and family. But if you post to those people, unless they share or comment or like something, it's only ever going to be seen by those people. So, you could spend a lot of time and energy posting once, twice a day, but it's only going to be seen by that very close group of people. So, engaging people to comment, share, enjoy it, invite their friends along, that's really good. But just be wary that, don't spend too much time and energy if you've only got a small collection of people you're posting to. But there are ways to increase that engagement and actually grow your following. Paid platforms being one of them. So every third post on Facebook, and most people are completely oblivious to it. So you look, every third post on Facebook is an advert, and I think it's every fourth or fifth post on Instagram is an advert. So as you start scrolling, you'll start to think to yourself, "Oh yeah, that's an advert. That's an advert. That's an advert." But they're very clever and they're very subliminal because they use you. You've been targeted in some way. It's not by chance. It's not like driving down the road and seeing a billboard for something that you may or may not be interested in. The way that social media paid ads happen, it's very, very targeted, even to the point where they use things like retargeting. So that's people that have been to your website, sorry, that you've been to their website, and then a couple of days later, they start showing you adverts. I've got the example there of Alienware. They're a brand that produce some gaming PCs. I was looking at them last week. I have been inundated with adverts about Alienware to the point where I've been back to the website 3 times. So it proves it does work. So yeah, sorry, I've gone off a bit of a tangent there. So paid platforms, they do cost money, but they don't have to be expensive. Typically in the form of sponsored content, it actually opens the potential a little bit. Instead of just being able to share a basic video, a basic image or gallery, you can actually do things like carousel adverts. You can do some more specific video adverts. You can be very, very clever in targeting different types of advert to different people. And yeah, you can create some different styles. I've been working with a few clients recently on some. Sorry, I've skipped ahead in my head. Let me go back. How can you advertise on social media? It's pretty easy. Make sure you set up the right tools. Make sure you connect your website. By that, I mean, when I just spoke about retargeting, about creating things called data sets and pixels. If you don't know how to do it, you're struggling, get some help, but just be careful who you ask. But most importantly, never, ever, ever, ever push the boost button. All you're doing is throwing money at Facebook. They're taking your money. They might increase the engagement slightly, but it's not really going to give you much of a result. There's the example there that we could target, we'll call it 5,500 people for spending £42 on a post. It'd be £42 down the bin. However, you might say, Dan, that sounds like it could be really expensive. I have an example of a client I've been working with. So over the last couple of months, I've been working with a furniture store. We've reached, so the advertising campaigns that we've set up, we've reached 64,000 people. Yeah, pretty decent amount of people. Of those 64,000 people, the adverts have been seen 175,000 times. We've had 378 clicks through to the website, which has resulted in sales of, we'll round it up to £20,000. And you think, oh, Dan, that must have cost thousands of pounds in a campaign. Cost £100. It's by far one of the best campaigns I've ever run, and I'm so proud of it because we turned £100 into nearly £20,000 in sales. all through using targeted adverts and being very selective about the demographic that we were sending it to, because there's absolutely no point sending it to everyone. We've just chosen the people that we know are going to be targeted. So don't think it has to cost a lot of money, but please, if there's only one takeaway from this session, don't use the boost button. Right, now we're talking about some content for social media. User-generated content. It's great, it's simple. Use other people to help you create content for your own social media. It can be done in a number of ways. Customer reviews is always a good one. Testimonials, easy. Real life stories, if you're an organization that's worked with particular people that have had success stories, they're great things to talk about. They also become evergreen content, which is the next slide. Link to online news stories, things like Google alerts you can set up. So when you do a search in Google, you can create a saved alert. So some of the products and brands that I work with, we have alerts set up. And every Wednesday I get a notification 9 o'clock in the morning, and it talks about all the new things that have happened on the internet about a given subject. And what we do with those is we twist the story slightly and we reuse them as our own content. So yeah, using other news outlets is great, but it helps build brand trust and credibility, especially things like testimonials and reviews and stories. So I just mentioned that buzzword, evergreen content. For me, it's great because what you can do is if you've got time-sensitive stuff that you want to get out there, start posting it out there. But there's always going to be that occasion where you think, I haven't got anything to talk about at the moment, but I've committed to posting at least once a day. This is where the evergreen content comes in. It's content that can sit there as a resource. You might not need it for a few months, but when you need something to post about, you can just pull it off the top shelf and say, right, let's show people this today. It can be used time and time again. Things like frequently asked questions, glossaries, term definitions, stuff like that. General, just please help, donate. How can you get involved? Those kind of things. Anything facts or figures related, but make sure they're up to date. If you've got some evergreen content from last year, just make sure that the facts are still accurate. So that's what's meant in terms of evergreen content. Another thing that I help people do is build a social media calendar. Now I've got a template of a calendar, which I'm going to send to Roger within a day or two, which he's going to then share out with everyone because it's got some useful stuff. It's not like a gospel thing that you've got to stick to and you've got to use. It's a bit of a guideline. But when you're building a calendar, as I said earlier, define your goals. What do you want to achieve out of this? Do you want more people to sign up on your website? Do you want people to just visit your website? Do you want to increase your awareness? So think about all those different things when you're building your calendar. And have a look at what's going on in the world. Look at theme days. Things like Pancake Day tends to get a lot of interaction. Everyone loves a bit of a flipping pancake in a frying pan. It's really good. You can create a poll off the back of that. LinkedIn has a great poll facility. If you said to people, what's your favorite pancake topping? Get some interaction, get some engagement from people. You might think you might get 10 people engagement, but it's social. Think of it like a spider. That those 10 people, if they respond to your poll, that gets posted on their timeline. If they've got 500 people following them, all of a sudden those 10 people has turned into whatever the next number is, and the next number is, as you can tell, maths isn't my strongest point, but it's a lot of people, and all of a sudden, and that's what going viral is about. Something that starts off as a tiny little idea and just snowballs very quickly into something huge. A great example of a viral video recently, especially spreading across things like Instagram and TikTok. I don't know if you've seen, but the Willy Wonka experience up in Glasgow, that was an utter disaster. People have been using that and creating their own memes and their own twists on it. And the original videos and original photos have become viral. So even though the event itself was a total disaster, in some respects, you could call it a success. There's actually a great program on Netflix talking about the Fire Festival, which was an event a few years ago in America, like mind blowing at what happened. And it was a group of people in America that created a festival, and it's known as the festival that was no festival. It never actually happened. But what they did is they interacted with some influencers like Kim Kardashian, Kanye West, all these A-list celebrities. All these celebrities were talking about it on their own social media channels, and they created this whole thing where loads and loads of money was collected in, but there was never actually anything to go to. Very interesting program. Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent again. Um, right, so you might have heard of Meta, you might have heard of Meta Business. What are they? A few years ago, when Facebook took over Instagram, when they took over WhatsApp and took over a whole host of other companies, and there's a bit of a statistic that Facebook buys something like two new companies every week. And what they're doing is amalgamating them in to create some really cool platforms. So if you've ever seen the VR goggles, that's a company called Oculus. They were bought out by Facebook because Facebook were looking at creating something called the metaverse. All these things have been grouped together under one brand name, which is Meta. So when you think of Facebook, when you think of Instagram, actually it's Meta is the kind of the overall umbrella company. Meta has some functionality built into it as default when you go to Facebook pages, i.e. the boost button, which you should never ever touch. But you can actually create something called a Meta business profile page, which is like an overriding settings page that you can use to manage a group of assets. So, sorry, I've spoken about most of this without actually showing you the slide. So they class the Meta Business platform as a powerful and versatile tool for managing your Facebook Messenger and Instagram presence in a single unified platform. Sounds really clever. But as I say, basically it's about creating a platform that all of these tools can interact with. So instead of you having to look at Instagram, having to look at Facebook, having to look at Messenger, having to look at WhatsApp, you can just go to one place to look at them. What they also give you is some advanced tools for managing those pages, but also some advanced tools for managing tracking pixels, which are really, really important. Again, another takeaway from today, even if you're not going to use them now, start tracking people's activity on your website because you can store that data forever. It's all done through cookies, so make sure you have a privacy policy on your website. It collects non-sensitive and non-personal data, but just collects data about behaviors in terms of what pages people have been to. But you can use that at any point in the future to retarget to these people. But it also gives you the option to delegate access to people. So one of the ways that Facebook pages and LinkedIn pages are managed is that you have to have a personal account within these social media platforms to be able to manage a business or organization page. So what you can do is, as the like kind of the marketing director, manager, whatever you want to, whatever your title is, you can be the overall manager of it, but you can offer delegate account to other people and you can give them control to do certain things, but not others. You should never ever share your password with other people across anything. And what this allows you to do is, if you've got a couple of people that are helping you on a part-time basis, you can offer them delegate access so they can log in and make changes, post on your behalf, but without giving them the ability to actually take complete control and ownership of your page, because it is really difficult to get them back. I've had to help a few companies along the line. If you've got ex-employees that have left and they want to be really vindictive, they can lock you out. And it's, to be blunt, it's a real ball ache to get those things back. And trying to speak to a human at Facebook or Meta is impossible. It's never going to happen. You have to use all these online chats. Right, so some useful tools for social media. There's actually quite a lot out there, but these are some of what I'd say is like the top of the pops. Buffer and Hootsuite. So when earlier I talked about scheduling posts, these are the two platforms that are great at doing it. There's some others out there, but these are by far the best. You can schedule posts and you can schedule posts up to a year in advance. I actually think Buffer goes longer than a year, but I don't think you'd ever want to do that. But they can actually help you monitor your social media feeds. So Hootsuite has a facility where you can aggregate your social media feeds into like a Kanban style board. They come up in columns. So actually, in terms of visibility, instead of having to have maybe different windows open or different tabs open, you can aggregate all that information into one window and it will help you manage it in that way. You can use it to track some like KPIs if you've got them, so key performance indicators or metrics. So if you're looking for keeping an eye on how many post likes you've got or how many page likes you've got, you can use some of these tools to manage those KPIs for you. So if you've got to put that information together to share with other people, these tools can help you with that. It also helps curate content. So in terms of what I said earlier about using things like Google Alerts to monitor what's happening in the world, actually some of these social media tools have that facility as well. And it also allows multiple people to collaborate. So a bit like Meta Business has the ability to offer delegate access. What you can do with Buffer and Hootsuite is set up multiple users so that you might have a junior marketing person create some social media posts for you, but then those posts don't go live until managers reviewed them and approved them or made edits to them. So it helps just give a little bit of freedom to people, but allows you to maintain overall control. Both of these platforms have really good charity rates. Buffer is actually free for 3 channels or less. So if you're just posting to Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Buffer is free. Some of the advanced features are paid for. With Hootsuite, nothing's free anymore. However, they do offer a charity discount of up to 75%, and Buffer offers their premium platform with a 50% reduction. So the Buffer, fantastic. I'd happily sign anyone up for that all day long. Hootsuite, a couple of years ago, they changed. It used to be a free platform. Now they started charging for it, but both offer really, really good discounts. Social Searcher is it's a tool that I've only started using recently, but it's really cool. So what it helps you do is it gets live insights of what's happening in the world based on any particular search. There's a free version which it keeps coming up with loads of pop-ups about upgrading, but you can get some good interaction. So you'll see in the screenshot there that I did a search for prostate cancer, and you can see that over the last day, it's been mentioned 307 times by 214 different users. I don't actually know what the sentiment value is. We won't look at that one. But what it does do is give you an idea of what other people are posting about it, which can help you create your own content, but might also be something really relevant that you'd want to reshare to your audience. So sometimes it's really good to collaborate with other brands. And if cancer research, if you're related to that particular sort of area, if cancer research posted something that you think you might want to share it with your network of people. There's nothing wrong with doing that. You don't have to create new content all the time. You can repost what other people are doing. So a bit like the Google Alerts, it helps look at common topics, common trends. You can set up alerts for it. And as I just said, it helps you repurpose content. Adobe Spark it's functional. I'm not a great lover of it, but for some people it's really good. It helps you create reels and videos. You could do flyers, posters, banners, all that kind of online graphic editing stuff without needing a huge skill set. They've got a great range of templates that are already there that you can tweak colors, you can add your own images and stuff like that. Talking of images, they have access to quite a large stock library. And one thing you should never ever do is take images from Google's image search. They are copyrighted images by large and should never ever be reused for your own purposes without the explicit consent of whoever owns them. But use some of these free platforms, things like Pexels, Unsplash. You can get access to free image libraries. You also have access to Adobe's font library, which is pretty vast. But you don't want to go over there crazy with all different fonts and all different sizes all over the place. Try and keep it quite concise. And actually, Adobe Spark is free for the basic version, which is really cool. Pro version is about £10 a month. It is good, but the next slide talks about something even better. Canva. I've touched on Canva, I think, in every session I've done so far, and I probably will for the next 3 sessions, because very honestly, I hated Canva when it first came out, because with a graphic design head-on, it basically made it look like anyone could do it. I've completely reversed my decision. It's actually a really powerful tool. You can create videos, animations, social media posts. You can create things like flyers and posters and banners, which are okay, but I wouldn't use Canva for their printing services because it's quite expensive and the quality is not very good. So if you're thinking of getting anything printed and you've created your own flyer, don't do that. Speak to someone like SoloPress, which is a Southend-based printer. They're become a bit of a high stream brand now. They're based down Stock Road, really nice, friendly company. They offer a 10% discount for any non-profit organizations. Have a chat to them. They're really good. So don't use Canva for its printing functionality, but all its other functionality is really cool. And it's completely free for non-profit organizations. You have to register through something called Charity Digital, which I talk about in the 6th session we're doing, when we talk about all the different tools and platforms. But it is free, and it's the full version for free. That there's nothing you can't do in it. Canva's great because you can collaborate with a team. So if you're creating things like social media graphics, you can have multiple people work on them at any time. They also have a large stock library of images that you can access and a font library you can access, which is pretty on par with what Adobe have got. The video editing function within Canva and the transitions within Canva are better than Adobe. So if you're looking at the two, don't bother with Adobe, just go for Canva. And by no way have I been paid by Canva to say that. Right, using AI. So AI, artificial intelligence, can really help you create some kick-ass social media campaigns. There's some really clever stuff out there. So I've just spoken about Canva. They have something called Canva Magic Studio. it takes all the complexity of creating social media posts out of it for you. You can do a very basic search, and it can come up with some really cool animated templates that you can repurpose. There's a little video here on how it works. It's unbelievably simple. You just type something you want in there. Quite annoyingly, the video is not loading. But there's a search bar. You type in what you're looking for, and it will create, using AI, it will create some templates that it thinks is relevant. There we go. It's kicked in now. So that was looking for a travel company. It's created some stuff. You can change all the colors of it to match your own branding. You can then change the images. You can change the wording. You can change the fonts. But what it does is give you a starting point. Instead of just looking at a white blank canvas, it will give you a starting point that you can then create something off the back of. ChatGPT, fantastic tool, a scary tool at the same way. It's free to sign up for. There is a paid version that gives you more access to the live data. But if you sign up for the free version of ChatGPT, and this is actually wrong because it's January 2022 now, but it only looks at data before then. So it won't be able to tell you anything about anything that's happened in the last 6 months. It'll only be able to look past January 2022. It has no live access to the internet. It's like this master brain of loads of information that you can talk to it like a real person, and it will respond. It typically responds in list form, as you can see from the example on the right-hand side there. It can create some quite biased answers. It's an AI engine at the end of the day. It learns information and then reproduces it in what it thinks is correct, but it's not always correct. It tends to use quite long sentences, tends to have quite a lot of grammatical errors in it, and tends to use American spelling. So, actually, if you said to ChatGPT, in the example I've got there, I said about creating some social media posts for a prostate cancer charity, it's given you some ideas of what you can post about. You can also use it to help generate hashtag ideas. But it's what it is. It's a really good starting point. If you're struggling to come up with a bit of a social media campaign, use tools like this because they'll help you come up with your own ideas. Don't take them for gospel. Don't just copy and paste. Use them as a point of reference to come up with your own thing. And interestingly, you'll see I've put there, create some social media posts for a prostate cancer charity in the UK. ChatGPT is clever enough to know to only look at UK-based information. Likewise, if I asked it to write its reply in UK English, it would have done that. So sometimes think about the question you're answering it and ask it a full detailed question, not just sort of little snippets of questions. What makes a good social media post? It's personal preference. It's horses for courses. But here's some sort of do's and don'ts. Use images and videos. They get by far the most interaction. It's something like 78% of social media posts that have video or images actually get engagement. The rest of them get ignored, especially when you're flicking through at night and you see all these different things. If it's just a few lines of text, it gets forgotten about. Encourage engagement from people, whether that be comments, likes, shares. When people write comments, you can also tag people in them by using the @ symbol. If you've got group pages, you can also use things like @everyone or @all, which will tag everyone into it so they get an update on a new post. Include some form of call to action. It's all well and good posting the likes of evergreen content that's got testimonial, but why not add a line at the end that says, click here to leave your own testimonial? Encourage people to engage with it and get in some interaction. Next one, keep it simple. One post, one topic. Don't try and put too much information into one post because it's too much for people to kind of process it in their minds. The only kind of alternative to that, if you're doing maybe a weekly roundup, then you could talk about a few things, but be sensible with it. No one wants to read paragraphs of text. Keep it as bullet points and keep it simple. Customize your post to different platforms. This is something that both Buffer and Hootsuite will help you do. So when you click on different social media channels, you can then customize the content, whether that be a different image size, different texts, using different emojis, different hashtags. In fact, completely different. You can create all those different things at different places. Define a tone, but don't make it too formal. You don't want to write every post by, dear sirs, here's our latest update from our organization. It's too formal, but set a tone and stick to it. And especially if you've got a lot of people that are collaborating together, make sure that everyone knows what the tone is. Don't start using various slang words. Don't start using text speak in terms of replacing words with just individual characters, like my mum does when she sends me a text saying "How are you?" And it's how are just the R and you just we've got a full keyboard. Most phones nowadays have a full keyboard. Use it to its full potential. Use memes and emojis. They're so underrated. There's platforms out there that help you find them. Emojis are really cool. There's a whole library of them now, and people know what they know what they mean. That it gets good interaction. Use hashtags, but strategically. Don't overuse them. No one wants to see 40 hashtags at the end of a post. Things like Instagram prefer you to put your hashtags as your first comment, which tools like Buffer will help you do automatically, so you don't have to go in and subsequently do them. Sorry, another thing on Buffer, they have an app that you can download on your phone that when you're looking to post stories and reels, it will come up with an alert on your phone to tell you to do it, and all you have to do is push a button. Another cool feature. Keep it consistent. Don't, as I said, there is one of the don'ts. Don't overpromise and underdeliver. Don't say we're going to post once a day, and then 3 weeks in, you've run out of content. You don't know what you're going to say anymore. Keep it consistent, but be regular with it, and be honest with it. If you're only going to post twice a week, just post twice a week. Play around with those times during the week that you post to see what gets the most engagement, but don't overpost. Which I've covered in the next slide. Get help from other people. It's very difficult to do all this yourself. Get help from people within your organization. Get ideas and help from people outside your organization. As I've said earlier on, don't post at odd times. Don't post at midnight. It'll be forgotten before it's even been seen. An obvious one, don't be offensive, don't be controversial. Everyone's got their own viewpoints on certain things, but just be careful, especially when you're in that public domain. Don't spam people. And by that, I mean, don't post 6 times in an hour. It gets very monotonous and people don't like it. Interesting facts, the word spam, I don't know if there's any Monty Python fans on here that are familiar with the spam. That song inspired the phrase spam. So when you get a spam email, think Monty Python. Don't buy followers. It happened a lot a few years ago. Facebook and Instagram have really clamped down on it now. You used to be able to buy 1,000 likes on Facebook. You could buy it on eBay for like $2.99. All that happens is short term, your page looks like it's got 6,000 followers. Overnight, that number will drop from 6,000 to 150 because Facebook will delete them. On top of that, Facebook then sort of put a little black mark against your name because it's a really bad thing to do. So don't buy followers, and don't ignore people on there. There's this whole thing about reviews in general. About it's a conversation I have a lot with companies I work with. If you get reviews, respond to the reviews. If you get comments, respond to them. And actually, sometimes the negative ones are the best ones to respond to. Don't only reply to the positive ones or the really good ones. Respond to everything, even if it's just like a thumbs up emoji or something, to show people that you're there and you're interacting with them. I personally, when I'm reading reviews, the first thing I do is sort the reviews by the negative ones first. I'm interested in seeing what the negative review was, but most importantly, what the response to it was, because everyone's had a bad experience at various places. Actually reading the response from the owners or the managers of the business give you a real insight into, the type of place that it is. If they're very apologetic and saying, it's a one-off occasion, please come back, we'd like to put it right, sounds like a really genuine company. If they start going, this was a terrible customer, they did this, they said that, it kind of shows a bit of their character. So yeah, think about replying to everyone. Don't ignore anyone. But having said everything I've said over the last 51 minutes, do what works for you. I've given you some rough guidance on some different things you could do, some do's and some don'ts, but use them as purely guidance. Don't follow them to the T, because every business, every organization is different, and every social media platform is different. So test and measure, see what works for you, and then follow that going forward and set that as your own sort of guidance for social media. Just use this as a bit of a blueprint. Right. I'm sorry, I've non-stop waffled for now 52 minutes. And as I said to Roger before this, when I started the presentation, it started off with about 12 slides. I was up to about 58 towards the end because I kept thinking of things that I wanted to tell people, but I appreciate that sometimes it's too much information to absorb. So I'm going to hand this back. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. I can see there's 17 notifications in the chat. So let's have a look at some of the questions and answers from people. And I can take a breather and have a little drink.
Thanks for that, Dan. That was absolutely brilliant. Really useful information in there.
I've just seen Dell's reply about having a free Nando's, and I'm very up for that idea.
Yeah, we shouldn't have called them free takeaway, should we, when it's Lunchinars? Sorry, Dale, we mean like a PDF or something like that, mate. And okay, yeah, Dan, if we just work through these questions then. So the first one is from Jackie. She said, "What do you think about podcasts?"
They're great. They're really time consuming to get set up properly. You need the right equipment, you need the right setup, and it takes time to not only record them, but then produce them and put them on a platform that can be easily shared. So a lot of these kind of podcasts and YouTube channels that start up, there's quite a large investment portion of it, but it actually takes a long time to get a decent following. So if you have the opportunity to be part of other people's podcasts, definitely do that, even if it means reaching out to them and say, hey, can I co-host your podcast? There's a local entrepreneur called James Sinclair that's bought quite a few local businesses and brands. He has a good podcast and he encourages other businesses to come along to talk about their business on his podcast. So I'd probably say try and avoid doing it yourself unless you've got that initial funding to help you get set up and you've got the time and technical ability, because audio editing can be quite complex. But they are a really cool tool. But I'd probably try and piggyback off someone else's success before you do your own.
Thanks, Dan. I guess the benefit of that is you can then leverage their audience as well, can't you?
Yeah. If you think about these people that, yeah, if they've already spent, the last year trying to generate 10,000 followers on their podcast, well, if you go on there for 10 minutes, that's 10 minutes in front of 5,000 new people that you never would have been in front of before. So leverage that. And there's a lot of these sort of podcast people, they encourage people to come along and join in because no one just wants to listen to them. They want to learn about new things and stuff like that.
Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. Thanks for that question, Jackie. The next one was from Dell, who's asked, what is a carousel advert? So this was when you were going through the Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah, so I'm just loading up my phone. Typically, the second post on my social media feed is again an Alienware post, and you'll see that in terms of carousel, I mean that it literally has a selection of different images that, as you scroll across, it has different images to it that have different links. It has different links across the bottom. You can't create that style of post organically within social media. You have to use the advertising tools to be able to do that. Have another quick flick through. So you can tell that I was looking at Hootsuite the other night because I've just got a retargeting advert from Hootsuite. And I can't find any other carousel posts at the moment. Oh no, there's one. I was looking at Snappy Snap's website and you can see they've got a carousel style advert. And down here, you've got a description of what each carousel image is. And then you've got a shop now button. So that'd be classed as the call to action.
Oh, dear. Brilliant. Thanks, Dan. It's lucky those were the things you're looking at, wasn't it?
Nothing dodgy.
Thank you. The next one. So this is from Tarzan, who's asked, how sure are you that the £19,000 in sales from the online furniture store advertising campaign was attributed to the campaign? Which is a great question because this is about tracking, isn't it? And being able to see what your return on investment is.
Definitely. And in next week's sessions, that's a real mouthful. Next week's session, we talk about some search engine. Let's just start again. Next week, we're going to talk about search engine optimization. As part of that, we're going to talk about something called Google Analytics. It's a free platform. It's really good, but it does a lot of tracking for people, especially in the world of e-commerce. You can set up a lot of tracking details in it, and you have things called attribution paths. So you can see that when a person landed on your website through to the purchase, you can look at what the instigating factor was. So where they first saw you and what they first clicked on. So sometimes an attribution path can be quite lengthy because it might be that someone clicked on a social media advert, then disappeared, but then came back because you sent them an email, then disappeared, and then did something else. But actually, if you look at the first attribution, that's the point that we use, certainly in what I've been doing with the e-commerce stuff. That's what you use as the factor. You can also distinguish between organic versus paid social media within Google Analytics. So that's how we know that actually the results we got were purely as a result of the campaign that we ran.
Perfect. Thanks, Dan. The next question's from Peter. Peter's from Shuby Residents Association. They run a Facebook page, which you may have heard of. I think, is it 8,000 members you got now, Peter?
Sorry, John, we don't have 10,000.
10,000,
Wow.
okay.
Goes up weekly.
Yeah, brilliant. His question was, can you change a private Facebook page back to a public page?
Yes, you can. Facebook stop you changing it frequently. So I think you can only do it once every 30 days because they don't like people that keep sort of switching it on and off. But yes, there are options to transfer it back to a public page. Is it a page you've got or is it a group you've got?
What we've got is a Shuby Residents page that we set up during COVID, which is the one that's reached 10,000. And one of our committee members took it over and then changed it from a public page to a private page. We had to go through solicitors to get it back again, which we got. But Facebook told us we couldn't change it back to a public page because people put messages on a private site that they don't want shared. So we've never been able to change it back. But a lot of the information we put on Facebook is all stuff from SABS, from the NHS, from the police, which we want shared, but people can't. They can only copy and paste.
That's quite interesting, especially if it's Facebook that's told you that. I don't actually know the answer based on your particular circumstances, but by all means, if you want to have a chat afterwards or at some point, and I'm more than happy to take a look for you. Have you got complete control and ownership back from the previous person?
We have, yeah. We took it through solicitors and it was going to go to court, which would have cost us an absolute arm and a leg, and it didn't reach that stage. So we got it back, and now we've made it that we've signed a sheet that each committee member now has to honour it legally. That if, like, there's two of us in charge of Facebook, and if I leave Shuby Residents, I have to pass it back, which is, what you would do anyway. But the legal document now to ensure that actually happens.
And actually, that's a really good thing. We mentioned it earlier about giving people delegate access. When you're in certain organisations and businesses, giving people access and control to things is all well and good until something goes wrong, and then they can kick you out. I used to work with a nightclub and manage their social media pages, and they worked with a freelancer who his invoice wasn't paid instantly. It was a day late being paid, and he locked everyone else out of the Facebook page. Now, luckily, we didn't have to go through any legal proceedings or anything like that. It was just a very genuine admin error that resulted in it. But actually, it highlighted very quickly that if this person has full control over something, they could lock everyone else out of it, and that made it very scary. So, Peter's story there. Be very wary of who you share access with, and if you can, actually, that's a really nice idea to get people to sign some sort of legally binding document to say that the ownership of that is the organisation, not an individual.
Great, thanks, Peter, for that question. I can't see any more questions in the chat stream. Is there anyone in the room that has a question? You'd like to just raise your virtual or physical hand?
Thanks, Tarzan, for working out how many videos that was in 18 minutes.
Robert, over to you. You're on mute at the moment, so you just need to click the unmute button.
So top technology savage. I may have asked this last time, I can't remember. I've managed to lock myself out of my Facebook account, and when I ask it for a code to log back in, it doesn't send one. Is there anyone at SABS that could help me with that, getting back into that?
I can help you with that.
Sounds like you've done that, yeah.
It's so strange. It's just happened to us a few days ago on Saturday. I tried to go into Facebook and it locked me out, and I thought, oh no, I've got problems. I don't know whether it's the same, but we got one of our members who's a whiz kid, a bit like Dan. He came round, he sat in my chair for about 3 minutes, and all he did was turn the VPN off. I don't know whether Dan knows more about it. I just felt a wally because he literally spent 2 minutes in the chair, switched the VPN off, and it came back again.
Yeah, I don't want to take up time in the meeting. I just wondered if there's someone I can have a quick chat to at some stage and try and resolve that.
I'm more than happy to, maybe at some point over the next couple of days, Rob, if one of the other slides I'm going to show in a minute has got my number at the end of it, but
Okay.
feel free to save my email and
Thanks, Dan.
see if I can help.
Thanks.
Brilliant. Okay, Dan, I think that's all of the questions.
Cool.
So back over to you, mate.
I've just got a few kind of roundup points to run over. So we've still got 3 sessions coming up. Getting found in terms of social engine optimization and Google Ads. Google offer $100,000 per month to organizations as free advertising. It's a really cool platform. Email marketing, talking about how you can build email lists, get engagement from emails, things like that. And then the final session, definitely looking forward to this one, the top of the pops. I've created 20 tools, in fact, I've got about 26 of them. Really cool platforms that charities can use, and most of them are free, if not really, really heavily discounted. So they're the next 3 dates. Make sure you sign up. As part of kind of my offering to do this, there's some packages that we've put together. That's me as Ionic has put together to provide to people. The 2 that I've done for social media is about getting set up on Meta correctly. So that's making sure that everything's linked together, making sure you've got your tracking pixels set up. We can then send those pixels either to your developers, or I can help you integrate them into your website, help you set up your ads account so that you can create ads within the Meta platform, and show you the basics of how to use it. It's a really cool tool. You should definitely have it if you've got Facebook, Instagram pages, but it just helps you pin everything together and also gives you all the options for the delegate access that we've touched on quite a few times. So we're doing that as a bit of a package for people as just a fixed fee. Also do some social media templates. So if you're already using Canva, we use Canva as well. So creating some templates that you can use carrying forward. So if you're struggling to come up with some ideas, and whilst Canva's got some really cool templates out there, we're putting together kind of like a whole load of templates that you guys can use for your own platforms. We create portrait, landscape, and one-to-one, i.e. square format images and videos, optimize them for you, help you write the content for them, or sort of set that tone that we spoke about, and then show you how to use things like Buffer to actually post them out. Again, we're doing that for a fixed fee. And then circling back to some of the other things we've done over the last couple of weeks. So there's the offer there of creating a completely bespoke website for you. And also about getting a digital audit, which actually highlights quite a lot of simple things that most people can do themselves to really improve your search engine rankings, as well as your overall conversion rate of your website. So I'll leave those slides in, and I'm sure when Roger shares the slides out with people, which I'm definitely going to send them tomorrow. I joke about that because I keep forgetting to send the slides after the sessions. But we're going to share that with people so that, if anyone wants to take advantage of that, there's a link that Roger's got that you can sign up for a free audit. I get that information come through, help compile the audit. And then once it's done, we'll book a meeting. Whether it's face-to-face, over Zoom, over Google Meet, anything, we'll run through what the action points are and what you can do yourself without having to pay a lot of money to get other people to do it. And then, as I said, don't be afraid to say hello. Like, I'm here. I'm a resource that I'd like people to use more. I don't cost a lot of money, if anything. But there's my number. There's my email address. If you've got any questions, if we've spoken about anything you're not sure on, and you just want to ask anything at any time, feel free to give me a call, drop me a WhatsApp. Probably not a text message because I always forget about those. But yeah, WhatsApp. Give me a call, or there's my email address, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. And that is it from me. And that is, we're 6 minutes over. I'm so sorry. Yeah, thank you.
No need to apologise. That was a brilliant session. Thanks, Dan. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And we'll send a follow-up when we can. And we look forward to seeing you all at the next one.
Thanks, Dan.